When it comes to getting impact from players on rookie deals, how do the Bills compare to the rest of the NFL? We're exploring that now on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Locked On Bills is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Well, folks, welcome into this mini episode of Locked On Bills. And what I want to do is share with you the results of a project that I did with Kyle Krabs. And the intent of our project was to determine how teams across the NFL are doing when it comes to getting impact from players on rookie deals. And so I also do a podcast with Kyle Krabs every day called Locked On NFL Scouting. And you can listen to it wherever you listen to this podcast. And that podcast is about team building across the NFL. So if you would like to hear more of my thoughts about the entire NFL, that would be the spot to go, Locked On NFL Scouting. And so the last 3 days on that podcast, Kyle and I went through and we identified every team's 5 best players that are on rookie contracts. So players drafted 2023, 2024, 2025. To determine which teams have the best young nucleus. And so step 1 is that we would figure out the 5 players that would represent each team, and then we'd score them on a 1 to 5 scale per player and then add it up. And the way that methodology works is you get 5 points if you're already one of the best players in the NFL at your position. You get 4 points if you're a quality starter, 3 points if you're an average starter, 2 points if you're a good depth player, and then 1 point if you just made the list. And so a couple other notes before I really kind of dive into the results and ultimately share where the Bills landed and my takeaways from a Bills perspective is that we did not project growth. Like, this is what the players are right now. Who are they right now? And I think the biggest flaw with the project is that it doesn't account for more than 5 players per team. And for some teams, it was hard to get 5. For other teams, it was hard to narrow it down to 5. But ultimately, it's about the best 5, and then you score all the players, you tally it all up, and you get this list, right, of best to worst in terms of the 5 best players on rookie deals as identified by me and Kyle, and then we scored them on that 1 to 5 scale. Let me tell you which players we picked for the Bills. And again, you can go back and listen to us do this the last 3 days on Locked On NFL Scouting. The 5 players we picked from the Bills. And I'd be curious for your opinion on this. So if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment and let me know which 5 players you would pick that are on rookie deals for the Bills. Drafted 2023, 2024, 2025. 2022 does not count because those players are either extended already or they are about to become free agents. So their rookie deals are over with. Here are the 5 players that we picked, and I'll tell you what score we gave each player on the Bills. We had O'Cyrus Torrence, and we gave him 3 points as an average starter. We picked Dalton Kincaid. We gave him 3.75 points, which is right there at a quality starter. Cole Bishop at safety. We gave him 4 points as a true quality starter. We picked Deion Walker, and we gave him 2.75 points, which is just below average starter. So 2 points is good depth player, 3 is average starter. We gave him 2.75 points. And then we picked Maxwell Hairston, and we gave him 2.5 points, which is right between average starter and good depth player. It's kind of what he was, right? I think there's a lot of ceiling there for a guy like Maxwell Hairston, but right now, he platooned with Trey White, did a pretty good job. That's a 2.5, right? So those were the 5 players that we picked for the Bills. Looking through the options, I'm not exactly sure there's a great case for a different player to be included. So let me give you that inventory. In 2023, the Bills drafted and still have Dalton Kincaid, O'Cyrus Torrence, and Dorian Williams. I guess they technically still have Nick Broker on a futures deal, but they don't have Justin Shorter or Alex Austin. And we took Kincaid and Torrence. Williams would not score higher than Maxwell Harrison. He'd probably be right there at about a 2.5 if we went Dorian Williams. From 2024, Keon Coleman, not picking him. Cole Bishop, we did pick him. Dwayne Carter, Ray Davis, Cedric Van Pran Granger, Javon Solomon, Tylen Grable, Travis Clayton. And then this last draft, Maxwell Harrison, which we took, TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson, Deion Walker, which we took, Jordan Hancock, Dorian Strong, Jackson Hawes, Chase Lunt. Now, one thing that hurts the Bills in this project is that it doesn't include 2021 or 2022, where they were able to land Greg Rousseau, Spencer Brown, James Cook, Khalil Shakir, Christian Benford, Terrell Bernard. It would have been helpful if you could have went back 1 or 2 draft classes, but that's not the point, right? It's rookie contract players. So I'm just trying to give you that type of context so that you can have the full picture on this conversation, because after the break, I'm going to tell you where the Bills landed, and you're probably not going to feel great about it. And I think that's real. But the context here in kind of leading up to that is what's important to me about this opening segment. So 2023, 2024, 2025. I think when you consider where this sampling of players can really elevate, I look at 2023 Dorian Williams, like he could have a huge role this year. He could be awesome. I think at a minimum, he'll be a X factor, good depth player. In 2024, maybe Keon Coleman takes a big step. Maybe Dwayne Carter comes back healthy and is a good player. Maybe Cedric Van Pran Granger or Tylen Grable wind up being starters and they play well. Maybe Javon Solomon can be an answer in Jim Leonard's defense. And then 2025, like there is so much to learn. I'm very excited for Max Harrison. I'm very excited for TJ Sanders. We'll see about Landon Jackson. We'll see where Jordan Hancock goes. Jackson Hawes is already an outstanding depth player. And then we'll see about Dorian Strong. So there are pathways for the Bills to get a lot more out of these players. But ultimately right now, we had to score them how they are. And there's a lot to be desired as it relates to getting impact on players from rookie deals when you consider what we just talked about. So coming up next, I want to tell you where the Bills rank. And then I'll also get into some conversation about like who the best teams were, who the worst teams were, where the AFC East falls, where other AFC rivals, and then, you know, my overall takeaways for what I learned doing this project. We'll do that here next. So folks, be sure to stick with us. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online, and they'll handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to give you every deduction. And you can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is going to give you that chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick cash, but it can send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so probably what you're most curious about is, well, where did the Bills land? How'd they do compared to the rest of the NFL? They didn't do well. They didn't do well at all. They came in at 23rd. 23rd. They got 16 points, and that ranked 23rd out of 32 teams. The range was fairly tight. The number one team had 22 points. The number 32 team had 12.5 points. So your range was 12.5 to 22. The Bills were 23rd with 16 points. The best teams in the NFL, based on this experiment that we did, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Lions, the Texans, and the Chargers. All of those teams actually were 20 points or higher. That was like you've done some really good things. You got some home runs right along the way. Think about the Eagles with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and Jalen Carter. The Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Devin Witherspoon, Byron Murphy. The Rams, Kobe Turner, Jared Verse, Braden Fiskey, Byron Young, Puka Nacua. The Lions, in one draft class, the Lions got Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, and some other outstanding player whose name escapes me. Who is it? Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, and some other stud. Sam Laporta at tight end. That's who it is. The Texans, Will Anderson, Kalen Bullock, Kamari Lassiter. The Chargers, Joe Alt, Lad McConkey. Had Tuli Tuipulotu's a heck of a pick for them. Diane Henley's a heck of a pick. So those were your best teams. The bottom tier, these are all teams that I think had less than like 15 points. The 49ers, the Panthers, the Broncos, hello, the Chiefs, hello, and the Vikings. I mean, the Chiefs have just, like, they're the 5 players that we took for the Chiefs. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Kingsley Suamaitea, Jaden Hicks, and Josh Simmons. Yikes. The Broncos, Bo Nix, RJ Harvey, Riley Moss, Marvin Mims, Jahdae Barron. A lot of these players can get a lot better, but like we talked about already, we graded them how they are. We didn't project any growth. So that's the top. That's the bottom. The Bills came in 23rd with 16 points. Let me tell you about the AFC East. The Patriots scored the best. They got 18 points. They finished 12th in the league. So that should give you an idea, right? Like the Bills are 16 points and they finished 23rd. The Patriots are 12th, and they had 18 points, at 2 more points. And that resulted in 11 spots different, right? It's pretty tight. The Patriots, Drake May, Christian Gonzalez, Craig Woodson, Jared Wilson, and Will Campbell. The Dolphins came in 17th with 17 points. The players we took from them, Devon Achane, Patrick Paul, Chop Robinson, Kenneth Grant, and Jordan Phillips. The Bills, again, 16 points at 23rd. And then the Jets, they were 27th. They had 15.75 points. We took Armand Membu, Olu Fashanu, Joe Tippmann, Will McDonald, and Mason Taylor. A couple of other notable teams in the AFC. I've already told you that the Broncos and Chiefs were bottom 5. The Ravens were 19th with 16.25 points. The Jaguars were 14th with 17.75 points. To give you an idea of just some other teams and where they fell. But the Bills, 23rd with 16 points. Again, it's not a perfect process at all, but I think it does tell somewhat of a story. And so ultimately, my big takeaway here is that this is a big drafting stretch ahead for Brandon Beane. I think he's in a little bit of a rut. And obviously we have a lot to learn about 2025's class. But I think he's in a bit of a rut. And that happens. Look at John Schneider with the Seahawks. This guy, for that first Super Bowl team that he built with Russell Wilson and Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas and Bobby Wagner, I mean, he went like 2-3 drafts in a row of just nailing it. And then he kind of had like a big-time lull. And then the last few years, he has just went crazy again. We need Brandon Beane to go a little crazy here and hit on some picks. It's going to be really critical. So it's a big stretch for Beane. And I think you look really kind of going back to 25, this next draft and the next one, like got to have some serious hits along the way. Maybe this conversation nudges you towards hoping the Bills trade picks for veterans. Maybe you said, hey, I've kind of had enough of the variance of rookie players or rookie deal players, and I'd rather trade those for established players, which, I mean, that can go a lot of different ways. The challenge with that idea is that you need to fill out your roster with some economic players. You can't just trade all your picks for handsomely paid players. It's a limited resource environment. So maybe you kind of thread that needle somehow with, a few trades, but ultimately still wanting to fill up your roster with homegrown talent that's on those cost control rookie deals. The last thought that I have on this is that I'm very intrigued on how the new coaching staff affects things. I'm not blaming Sean McDermott for Brandon Beane not having stellar drafts the last few years. I am not doing that. But with the scheme change, especially on defense, it opens it up to a lot of different skill sets. Joe Brady is not Sean McDermott. And so, maybe there's different impulses that he'll have as somebody who should be a big, voice in Brandon Beane's ear, where he can kind of influence some things. Maybe it's a different coaching staff. And you heard Brandon Beane talk about alignment and collaboration as two really critical things. And obviously that indirectly indicates that there was issues with collaboration and alignment with the previous coaching staff. And so I am curious to see how the alignment with a new coaching staff that is fundamentally different, that has a completely different defensive ideology, what does that mean for the players the Bills would draft, and then ultimately how successful these drafts are going to be? But I think this new direction kind of gives us all a fresh opportunity to see how it shakes out, right? The unknowns are intriguing. They're exciting. I'm nervous. All the things, right? All the things. I feel those things. But we did this, all week long on Locked On NFL Scouting, and I wanted to take that conversation and make it very Bill specific here for a mini episode of Locked On Bills. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm curious for your thoughts on this. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel. I'd love to, be able to read through those and kind of see how you feel about this, and whatever thoughts you have on the project and Beane and drafting and what needs to be different moving forward. So leave a YouTube comment if you will. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today. Our next conversation will be free agent wide receivers. That'll drop on Thursday morning. So we will go through and discuss, different targets that the Bills could pursue in free agency at wide receiver. Of course, the episode before this one, we covered 10 different receivers the Bills could trade for. And so as I've kind of teased and I'm executing, you're going to have a lot more content in this feed. There's going to be most days that there's 2 episodes that are dropped. So make sure that you're being aware of that. And if there's something that maybe you missed, you go back and check it out because we're going to keep it moving here. I want to give you guys all the Bills conversations that are filling up my mind here on Locked On Bills. So don't miss anything. Make sure you are subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.